Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my April 2023 book haul video. I was able to buy a lot of books this month. You know, some previous months I do a lot, sometimes I do a few. I usually buy 10 at least, sometimes upwards of 15 or occasionally up to 20. This month I have 23, so pretty solid. And if you count unique titles, because sometimes I've bought like bind-ups that are all like 3 books in one or something. If you count unique titles, this is the most I've ever had, I believe. So I'm really excited to talk about them. So I have 23 books. Almost all of them are science fiction, although there is a fantasy in there. And there is some tie-in fiction for Star Trek, and then I have 10 books for Star Wars. But I'll do those at the end. So let's get with the first couple books I'll talk about are my book collection of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. A lot of people tell me I need to get into this series. My brother-in-law loves it. My friends at my old job love it. And people talk about how it's a great satire, a great science fiction story, just great storytelling, and great British humor. And so I've seen the bind-ups in stores, which have been pretty affordable, but I just have not been interested in getting them. But at my used bookstore, they had the 4 of the 5 books for a really good price. They had the mass market paperbacks of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. They had The Restaurant at the End of the Universe, So Long and Thanks for All the Fish, and Mostly Harmless. And I think I'm missing one of the books because I think there's 5, but they didn't have the 5th one there. They had several editions of these. They had the trade paperbacks, which they had all 5. They had like hardcovers, which were super expensive, and then they had paperbacks. And I didn't want the hardcovers of the trades, so I just went with the mass markets. But that meant I only got 4 of them. But they match together, and they're mass markets. They should be easy to read, nice Del Rey books. So I'm excited to get to read these books eventually. They seem like really quick reads, which I'm excited about. I also got a book from Baen Books called Migration by James P. Hogan. This is a book, I believe, from like the 80s or 90s, or maybe the 2000s. Let me look at the pub date. Oh, nope, I was wrong. 2011. Pub date 2011. This is a just science fiction book. I'll be honest, I picked it up because it's Baen, because it has a cool cover, and when I read the premise of the book, it looked interesting, and I want to support Baen because they're a great outfit there. Next, I have 3 Star Trek novels. The first one is a book called Star Trek Klingon. And when I first saw this book in bookstores, I saw that it had like adapted by, and so I was like, oh, it's a novelization of something. And I thought it was novelization of some DS9 episodes because Gowron, who's pictured on here, is from some of the DS9 episodes. And then I looked closer and saw that it was a novelization of the CD-ROM, which is apparently a video game, kind of, but for the TV, it's really, and I believe it was directed by Jonathan Frakes, but the authors who adapted the novel actually had input on the story of the original story. So this looks like it's a really short read. I want to say it's like 100-something pages. It's like 190 pages, so it should be a really easy Star Trek read. Next, I have 2 Titan novels. I have Titan Taking Wing and Titan Synthesis. Taking Wing by Michael A. Martin and Andy Mangels. And as I understand, this is the first Titan novel for Star Trek. And then I have Synthesis, which is like I think a 5th or 6th, but it's by James Swallow. I picked this one up because I want to be able to start the Titan novels, and also I wanted to start at the beginning. I picked up Synthesis because I love James Swallow. I think his works are great, and so I wanted to read more of his books. So I have another James Swallow Titan novel and another Michael A. Martin Titan novel, but those are middle of the series or end of the series, and I wanted to get the ones towards the beginning. So I'm excited to read those. Then I have 3 science fiction novels that are more, I want to say like, more grounded than these others. They're not fantasy, they're not fantastical, they're more alternate history. I have The Calculating Stars by Mary Robinette Kowal, the first book in the Lady Astronaut series. Then I have The Faded Sky by Mary Robinette Kowal, the second book. And then the third book is The Relentless Moon. It's the biggest of them. I saw these were in the bookstore for like $2 or $3 a piece, and it was a buy 2 get 1 free when I got it at the used bookstore, and so they're really nice editions. The sticker stuff is still on them. I need to get the stickers up, but it's really nice editions from Tor. And I got it the whole set, the whole trilogy for like $7, which is great. So from what I understand, this is like an alternate history, but what if it was women who were the astronauts instead of men? It seems very similar to the TV show For All Mankind, which is on Apple TV Plus, which is a terrific science fiction show. A really like a unique science fiction, not just the blasters and stuff, but actually space travel. And I want to get into that type of storytelling. I've been looking for that type of storytelling, and so I picked these up because of that. Speaking of more grounded storytelling, I found The Dabare Snake Launcher by Joel Presby. You may recognize the name because I actually got to interview the author, Joel Presby, as part of the big interview that I did with David Weber and the rest of the team that wrote the novellas for What Price Victory from Baen Books. This is another Baen Books. And this book came out in trade paperback, and I was already interested in buying this book because the author had a good pitch for it. But I also picked it up because I want to support her, and I don't want... Sometimes when you have like a collection, the big name author gets all the attention, and all the rest of the authors don't really get any attention. So I wanted to show some support, and when I read the premise, I was like, this is really interesting. I believe Joel Presby was in the military, and this is all about Africa, building a space elevator out of Africa. The ideas here are cool, and I really like this cover. Out of Africa at Astra. So the Dabare Snake Launcher. Speaking of which, I also got another book from the authors that I interviewed. This was Jane Linskold's Library of the Sapphire Wind. This was the fantasy book I referenced. You can tell it's got like the fantasy creatures and stuff on it. And this is the first in a trilogy for her from Baen Books. Beautiful cover. Again, I love this cover. Really well done. And it looks like the covers are kind of like a triptych, or at least the first two are. The third cover, I think, is separate, but the first two, like they you can set them next to each other and they look like one big painting. And I thought that this was just a terrific idea, and Jane Linskold made it seem like an interesting book series. So I'm going to read the first, and if I enjoy it, I'll keep reading. But I wanted to show Baen a lot of support. These are new. I bought these new, by the way, because I want to show, and I don't buy books new unless it's like a, Star Wars or fantasy. Like, unless it's a series that I'm actively following and I read the day it comes out, I really don't buy new books. So I did this, though, because I want to support Baen, because they're a great publisher. Now to the Star Wars books. I got 9 books from one series, and then 1 book from another Star Wars thing. Now, I've, of course, been a big fan of the Expanded Universe, big collector of the Expanded Universe, and I've wanted to have all the books for it. And I've read, I want to say something like 80% of the EU, and I own about 65 or 70%, because some of the books I read I borrowed from my brother-in-law, specifically The New Jedi Order. When I first read The New Jedi Order, I borrowed all 19 books from him, because he had them all, and I was like, don't spend money, I can just borrow them from my brother-in-law. But I was not the collector then that I am today, and so I wanted to start collecting, and I bought 3 of the books already. I already own Vector Prime, Agents of Chaos, and Conquest. So I was like, I have 3 books already, and so I went out and I bought 9 new Jedi Order books. They weren't new; these are old. Actually, the way it worked was my parents were at a convention for something in Tennessee, where there was a bookstore called McKay's Books, which is my favorite bookstore. McKay's, there's one in Knoxville, there's one in Chattanooga. They're the best bookstore chain. Anytime I'm just passing through, I always build in an hour so I can go to McKay's, because it's great. And my parents' thing was right near, like a couple minutes away from McKay's. And so I was like, hey, can you pick up some books for me when you go there? And the books I actually wanted her to buy, my mom to buy when she was there, weren't present. And so instead, I was like, well, let's just collect the New Jedi Order books. So I was able to collect those books, a lot of them. I couldn't find a paperback version of Star by Star, but I have everything else up to a certain point, so I'll talk about them. So first I have the Dark Tide duology, Onslaught and Ruin by Michael A. Stackpole. Michael Stackpole, a great author, really a big fan of him, and I've read a lot of his books. All of his Star Wars books, novels I've read, and then I've read one of his fantasy, and I own more fantasy of his. So I remember really liking this duology a lot. Very Michael Stackpole-y in the way it was written, and interesting covers too. Then you have, I already have the first Agents of Chaos that I mentioned, but this is the second one, which I'm excited about having. I read it, and this one's fine. It's one of the weaker NJO books, in my opinion. Then I have Balance Point, which surprisingly is my favorite of the hardcovers, like the ones that came out in hardcover. For a lot of people, they like Vector Prime, they like Star by Star, they like Destiny's Way, and they like The Unifying Force, the other 4 hardcovers. But this one's always the one that everyone puts as the weakest. But this was my favorite of the hardcovers because I just thought the story was great. And then I have the second of the Edge of Conquest. Oh, sorry. I have the second of the Edge of Victory books, Rebirth. That was I got for really cheap. Really excited to have that to join the other one I have. And then I got Dark Journey by Elizabeth Cunningham. I should have mentioned this one's Greg Keyes and this one's Kathy Tyers. And then my favorite New Jedi Order book, overall favorite New Jedi Order book, is Rebel Dream by Aaron Alston, the first in the, I forgot what this duology is called, Enemy Lines, the Enemy Lines duology. He also has Rebel Stand, which is okay. It's an okay book. But Rebel Dream is an amazing, amazing book. Then I have the final New Jedi Order book that I bought, is widely regarded as the best New Jedi Order book, but for me, it is the absolute weakest, and the one not weakest, it's the one that I don't connect with, and the one that I don't like the direction they took with it. And I know why people love it, but I don't. And that's Traitor by Matthew Stover. I know why people love it. I understand all the reasonings. It's just my least favorite. That being said, I'm excited to go through it again someday, and maybe I'll enjoy it more, but it's not a favorite for me. And the final book I got was The Crystal Star by Vonda and McIntyre. This book has a really bad reputation among EU fans, but there are some people who enjoyed it. And I know one of my friends, Caleb, who runs Caleb Likes Books, read it recently, and he didn't hate it. He didn't love it, but he didn't hate it. So I'm interested to get into it. There's a lot of interesting discussion in the fandom. I know that some other YouTube channels I follow, Red 5 Reviews, did a review of this, as did The Geek's Attic. So I'm interested to get back and read this one as well. So lots of books, lots of Star Wars, got some Star Trek, got some science fiction, got some Baen books. Which book here are the ones you're interested in? And if you've read any of these, what were your thoughts on them? And are you interested in buying new books? And what new books did you buy this month? Let me know all those thoughts in the comments section down below. I do read, even if you leave a long comment, I always try to react and love people's comments. But I do read each and every comment, even though I don't respond like with a reply, but I do read all the comments and I do appreciate them. So I love the discussion that these produce. Please let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.